You're listening to REIA Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out REIARadio.com.
If you incorporate some of the tools that you're talking about, like a never split the difference, it's like carrying around a skeleton key to like a million different locks that could be out there.
It's like having a baby. You know, like every time you have a baby, for those who have not started a business, will understand if they have had a baby. Like that baby requires all of your attention.
People like dealing with people that they feel are being genuine with them, and people that are asking the relevant question.
When I came in, I'm like, well, let's just start off with a quick walk of the house. And it was like the opposite. They always said, go to the couch and talk. I'm like, no, I want to see everything in the house, and I want to find my commonality with this person so we can create a relationship, become friends, and then everything is easier after that. Welcome to REIA Radio, episode 128 with Michael Kramer.
Published author.
That's,
Best-selling author.
I mean, we already have his book, signed copies, sitting here right now.
I love it, man. I feel pretty important today. I might just carry this around, hook it to my belt. Be like, have you guys seen this? Just show it to people randomly in the street.
That's a Van Dieb special.
Von Dieb.
Hey, listeners, do you recognize the voice of our long-lost former producer coming back to grace us with his presence and brought a little eye candy with him? The lovely Tamara is in the house.
In the house.
Yeah. How did you guys escape the mother and father duties today? What's going on? Tell us.
Special occasion.
Tell them.
What?
Today is Daniel's birthday.
Is what?
His birthday.
Your birthday?
Yeah.
Happy birthday, buddy! Man, and you're back to your favorite place in the world, right?
Yeah. I had to start off my birthday, with breakfast, of course, from her, in the best breakfast ever.
In bed?
Yeah.
Yes.
And breakfast before breakfast.
Did you have any figs?
Breakfast before breakfast. What exactly does that mean?
She had figs, and then we came here to just continue the beautiful day that I'm going to have. I'm proclaiming it. So I mean, and at the same time, Devin gave me the opportunity by not being available today for me to have to come out. So thank you very much, Devin. But definitely,
Hey, happy birthday!
Right?
So how old are you today?
I am 33.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
My daughter said that I looked 32 yesterday, so I'm younger than you.
There you go.
That's dog years. My brother-in-law was born on February 29th, so he has a birthday every 4 years. So he says he walks, he's like 62 or whatever. He always walks around saying he's like, I'm 16, So
one of those special people.
Yeah. So
you came in really frantic today, man. Like you came in hot.
It's been a day so far.
I mean, it's 10 a.m. Man.
I know.
We don't even have an old fashioned, so it came in that bad. So tell me, like, what's going on in your world that makes you going so crazy right now?
Well, as you know, as everyone knows that lives around here, we would just keep getting hammered in with storms and storms and storms
and flooding.
And flooding. I've got so I'm just kind of in triage mode right now. I feel like I'm just kind of waiting for the phone to ring, and I've got a closing today on a package deal that I'm buying with some partners. It's a 24-unit townhome community in Exarban, which in Omaha is kind of like a midtown, pretty hip area where there's a lot of the cool kids hang out. And then 5 duplexes is part of that package too. Nice. So we had some last-minute closing hiccups with docs and who does what when and all that stuff. So it's been closing's in like 2 hours. So we got to make sure everything's available and whatever. Not the ideal time for a podcast recording, but here we are.
They should have worked around you, buddy.
Yeah, but it's just been one of those weeks. I went from the dump to hauling tree branches to like hurrying up and showering and heading over here so it's been a day.
Have you guys gone and checked out the flooding?
No,
I have. Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, you live right next to the river, so
right.
I mean,
when we were flying in, I heard a family in the rows next to us talking about the Missouri River breaking its bank, and flooding some areas. I didn't know anything about the flooding until I was flying. We were flying in yesterday.
Oh, did you
And
see it? Yeah, it's
from
out.
the sky. Yeah.
Yeah, it's breached the natural borders of the river, but yeah, it's so 2011, 2019, and now this year have been kind of the three most recent flooding events that have been really bad, with 2011 being by far the worst. And the kind of the marker on that, where you can tell, there's a statue down on the riverfront where they would always film it or take pictures of it to see how high up, because there's like a dude holding his hand up in the air, and that whole guy was almost covered by in the 2011 floods, which was like, it was almost Armageddon.
Yeah.
And so I live by the airport, which is very close to downtown Omaha, and it's also right by the river, like right by it. So in 2011, they were on DEFCON 1. I mean, you had the Army Corps of Engineers that was doing everything humanly possible to try and prevent the levee from giving way, because then it would wipe out the entire airport. Carter Lake, where I live, would be toast. Luckily, I have a boat, so I'd be living on a houseboat, more or less.
But at least it would float.
Yeah, and then downtown Omaha. So that would be like the worst possible scenario if all that gave way. So they did a lot of shoring that up over the last few years to kind of reinforce it, but not good. There's a lot of stuff, and it's not even supposed to crest. I don't think until like late today or tomorrow.
Saturday.
Yeah. But I had a house that's close on the other side of the river, on Iowa side, fairly close to the like riverfront area, and there were literally, I don't know if you guys saw that Instagram reel I posted, but there were fish swimming in the street.
I saw that, yeah.
Like you were right outside, like you literally walk outside the front door of this house that's flooded that I have. And there's carp just like chilling, cruising around, jumping out of the water and stuff, just like in the street. Like literally you could go fishing.
But don't eat the fish right now.
Yeah, I probably would not do that.
It is very contaminated water right now.
I was about to ask you if Carter Lake actually got back up to its level it should be at.
It
right
still
now.
isn't, honestly. Like
even with the flood?
Yeah, even with the flood. So it has another probably 1.5 feet to go before it's like, that's enough.
So you still can't take the boat?
No, I have the boat in.
Okay.
Yeah, so we actually, I haven't, this is obviously first world problems here, people, but bought this boat during COVID because everybody's bored off their ass, and we were, trying to find one. We live on a lake, and finally got one, drove it back, and basically got to use it for like 4 weeks, and then it's been in storage for 3.5 years. So I've never been able to take it out because the lake level is so low. So finally we got it, and now there's seaweed everywhere, but whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tamara, we just got an invitation. He didn't say it.
Oh yeah, this will happen. We'll all go out. Yeah.
Day one of him being on the boat, I got a selfie. He's like this. He's like,
Finally. Yeah. But it's a little bit about me. What have you guys been up to?
Yeah, so it's my daughter's birthday. So, of course, we have to have the family birthday party, and then we have to have the actual going out to dinner on your birthday party. And then now tonight, it's the girls spend the night slumber party.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like the week long.
It's a week long. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That's my wife and her side of the family. They celebrate all week like that for birthdays. So we had the same thing. My daughter's sweet 16 was a week and a half ago.
See, that's why it's nice when the birthdays are on a weekend, because you can just knock everything out. Hey,
yeah.
It's Friday. Everything's happening on Friday or Saturday or Sunday, whatever it is.
I have a quick funny story, if that's all right. Unless tomorrow you look like you want to tell us a story. No. She had a panicked look on her face. So my daughter turned 16, and she does not want to drive. Like we're kind of like not forcing her, but we're like, look,
a lot of kids
you're not living here for the rest of your life.
A lot of kids are like
carting you around,
right? That's a new thing.
I know. I don't understand it. I was like, when can I get out of here? That's how I grew up.
Listen, you guys live in America. In the Caribbean, we don't move out from our parents' house until like 25, 30.
Oh my God! So you'd just be moving out if you still live there.
Basically,
yeah.
Yeah, they don't kick you out. They keep
Wow.
you until whenever you want. You can stay forever. They won't care.
Huh? No, thank you. Nope. So we get my daughter a nice used little SUV. It's a Mazda CX-5. And I'm trying to get her some reps, and like we started on a golf cart to get her experience to driving stuff, and then moved. Now we have this car, and I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna take Avery. I'm gonna take you into this kind of like road. This is really dumb now in hindsight, but there's a road that goes around the back of our airport where it's basically the private hangars, and it's very, very rarely busy back there at all. There's almost never any cars. Like I've taken a Tesla back there and just like gotten on it, you know what I mean? Just to check it out. And so I take her, I'm like, hey, it'll be fine. And she's freaked out by like she's really worried about people seeing her and, just like police and whatever. I mean, she's terrified. Right. So I'm like, hey, it'll be no big deal. We can go slow. Nobody's going to be back there. This will just get you more experience. Because we've been doing it in a parking lot at the school. You know what I mean? Yeah, so it's just like going 2 miles an hour around in circles. It's, not great driving experience. So I take her back there, right? And there's like 18 cars, like right away. I like just like zoom, 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 like by him. And she's looking at me like, bro. And I'm like, hey, it'll be fine. We'll just wait till all these go by. So I'm so stupid because this is during the College World Series. So there's all kinds of private jets flying in and out of there. Yep. Right? And pilots, passengers, whatever. And then there's just people in and out, in and out. And I'm like, all right, well, I can salvage this. So we pull off to the side, and there's like this little gravel thing, little like gravel driveway, and there's a gate that's closed. So I pull there, I get out, get in the passenger side, Avery gets in the driver's side. And I start walking around, and all of a sudden, guess who comes down the road?
Please.
Yes. A cop. Pulls to a stop right by me, and he's like, so you got car problems? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. We're going to turn around. I'm just getting out here we're going to turn around and go back the other way. I didn't realize where we were. So anyway, she gets out. She's just mortified and staring daggers at me the entire way back to the elementary school where we continued our turtle pace of driver's ed. So that's my story.
You get one of those stickers for the back of the car saying new driver for her?
Oh, God. I don't know. This is not, I tell you what, I was always like, not a big deal, when you're, it's rite of passage or whatever. It's terrifying when you're a parent and you have a 16-year-old about ready to drive. Oh, my God. I'm sweating right now thinking about it.
I remember my first riding experience was like my dad's like, we got to get the Camaro like broke down, and then he had two cars, and he's like, and then my mom and dad had a '68 Camaro, and they're like, he goes, okay, drive that up the street, follow me. And I'm like, I'd never driven a car before,
let alone a Camaro. What? Jeez.
So I mean, it was like 2 blocks, but it was like that was like the first driving experience. I was like, oh yeah, I got
16
this.
years.
I remember, but I learned to drive initially on my dad's truck. He had like just a little Ford Ranger, but it was a stick. And he would always take me to like Glenwood, Iowa, which is really hilly in some parts. So I'd have to go like, and for those of you who haven't driven a stick, like you got to push in the clutch, put it in gear, and then like you got to simultaneously push the gas down while you're letting off the clutch. And I it's hard to get when you're first starting. So I'm like, like burning up the clutch on it, and he's like not happy. So, oh, glad those days are over. Whew.
Well, back to real estate.
Yeah.
Fun stories.
You guys missed a great show with Michael Kramer, by the way.
It was amazing.
Well, I'm waiting to hear the synopsis of it.
So he dropped off a few books for us. One we're going to give away at the REIA this week. But yeah, Empathetic Leadership by Chris Voss and Michael Kramer.
Nice.
And so we're really hoping that he can help us get Chris Voss on after this. But he wrote a little special note in there. You want to read that?
No, I read it. So
very, very personal.
It was, it's from him to me, not all of you guys. But it was an amazing episode. It was exactly what I was hoping for with him, and he described his journey through, pre-real estate, and then how he got into it, struggles with balancing business and family life, and then, transitioning into hitting some success. He goes all in on stuff. And you're going to hear about this in the episode. And he's tried to learn how to kind of put the brakes on that drive when you're with family and with people who need your time to keep the relationship strong.
And he gets really deep with past business partners, things that unfortunately didn't go his way. How he was able to take this issue that happened is a great failing forward, but this issue, and then grow from it and actually become better man because of it.
And the story on how exactly he entered into Chris Voss's world is like crazy.
Kind of stalkerish.
Yeah, it is a little. I mean, it's like he took a page out of Ted Kosh's book with the light online stalking.
Are you talking about you or something?
No, well, that also.
Okay.
But yeah, no. Just stay tuned for this because this guy knows so much about real estate and business, and it's fun to hear his story on how this all came about with it. But he's got a really kick-ass business. He's employed a lot of family members. Like over 12. Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in the episode, kind of how he's been able to have that work. It can be difficult at times, having family in the business, and it's fun hearing it because you have people that really separate, their work life and their family life, and he's figured out how to integrate it and make it work with his world. So it's going to be a fun one. Buckle up for this episode.
Well, before we do that, let's get into today's Golden Nugget. And this Golden Nugget is brought to you by JM Real Estate Capital.
Hi, it's Rob, JM Real Estate Capital. We're the money guys that you need to know for all your real estate investments. Talk to us. We can do what your local bank can't or won't do. We don't have millions, we have trillions with a T to lend. 844-WE-CLOSE or go online, jmrecapital.com. That's jmrecapital.com. JM Real Estate Capital, smart solutions for the real estate investor.
He missed that.
I do.
So today's Golden Nugget, 2 weeks ago, the property that I mentioned when this episode first started recording is a 24-unit townhome community plus 5 duplexes. And we met the seller, and he's a really cool dude. He's been doing this for a long time. Probably, I would guess he's probably in his early 70s, and he's just kind of starting to divest and enjoy himself because he's been self-managing for that whole time. So it's he's got a lot of properties. So anyway, we were just chatting, and he was talking about just the day-to-day business of managing real estate and properties, and he mentioned in passing that it's rare that he turns over. Now this may be debatable, this whole segment that I'm about to mention here, but he mentioned that he almost never gives back a full security deposit, like just across the board, because there's always some type of damage to the units, and he's had units that have been trashed a lot over the years, just like every landlord has at some point. And what he was describing is, he said, I probably had every time I have somebody move out and there's damages and it exceeds their security deposit, I immediately turn it over to collections. And I was like you just call him and you're like, yeah. He's like, I go in, I make an itemized list of all the damages, what the total is for the cost of the repairs, and then I call the collections company, and I talk to the former tenant first. And I'm like, here's your balance due, and if they say no, I'm not paying that, I immediately turn it over to collections. And I was like, what? I thought you had to take them to small claims court. Seriously, I've been doing this almost 20 years, and I didn't know you could just turn it over to collections. But yeah, he said I've probably collected over $100,000 over the past several years just by doing that. So itemize your repair list, make sure that costs are accurate, and if you have tenants that are basically stiffing you for a lot of repairs that they are causing you to do because of their damage or neglect, this is a good way to recover it. And it may take years for you to get some money back. And now generally the downside to using a collections company is they're probably going to take, and I haven't done this in a while, but they usually take about half of whatever they collect.
Oh, it's that high, huh?
Yeah, but so they're motivated though, right? So if you're a collections agent and you're hitting the phones and you're tracking people down and trying to make sure that the money they owe to the rightful person is collected, they're incentivized because they get bonuses off of that, right? So it's all based on volume. But it's basically, instead of writing that loss off and just eating it, this allows you to at least recoup some of it, and the responsible party for the damages, they're on the hook, and it can go against their credit too. So there's an incentive, another disincentive for for not damaging a property.
And it takes a lot of that stress off of you too.
Yeah, because you just you're done. Your job's done. You turn it over to them. Forget about it. If you don't get anything, you wouldn't have gotten anything anyway. But who knows? You might get something that shows up in your account a year later.
I think the other benefit of that is the cost factor that you get to save with respect to your time, because obviously if you go into court, then that takes up your time. So that cost factor, you definitely, if you value your time high enough, definitely you would save money on that end. In addition to, because I was thinking, the first thing that came to mind is like, what is the cost benefit of going through collections versus you doing it yourself in court the way that you have been doing it? And one of them is your time value definitely would be worth more than how much ever you would be paying them in the 50%, whatever amount that is now. So for people like you, definitely, I mean, for small fries, maybe for small fries, it might be beneficial for them to go through collections. But I mean, some people also like the experience of court. I don't know why, but some people like the experience of court.
Ted does. He's super weird, but
it was a one-time deal. I just wanted to check it out.
He's like, yeah, this is really neat. Ted's like taking selfies and whatever. I'm like, dude, they owe you like $5,000. What are you celebrating here? He's like, I'm in eviction court, yo. Like taking snaps. Okay, to each their own.
Oh my God.
We got paid.
There you go. Good job.
So I learned a lot, and I had a good time with that. So I'll take that back, and I'll do it again.
Okay,
I'll take more selfies.
Well, you have fun. So no collections for you then. No collections agencies.
No collection agencies. Okay. Well,
control freak. Excuse me.
That's why I need to get into like storage units or something. It'll be a lot easier on me.
You're just forced to, turn it over. Yeah.
Don't we have an episode on storage units? That went?
Oh, Andrew
Angelucci.
Angelucci.
Yeah. Fernando
Angelucci.
I did that.
It's like Foghorn Leghorn there for a second.
I was talking to him this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely, listeners, if it is you remember that storage episode that we did with Fernando Angelucci. It was absolutely amazing. Go check it out.
That was one of my top 5 favorite episodes we've ever had.
Yeah.
Fernando Angelucci. I don't remember the episode number,
so
but
we're gonna have him come to Omaha and come speak at our group.
Oh, no kidding!
Nice.
Oh, that's great. That'll be awesome.
It will
like
be.
That dude's a
yeah.
Well,
Tomorrow
I was gonna say he's a stud, and his handle is the storage stud.
Is it? Well, I mean, it's nice having you guys. Happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you, bro.
And it's good to kind of bring the forces back together here.
Yeah, +1, right? So we'd see.
Forces.
Our little REIA Radio family is growing. All right, should we get into this episode with
Michael Kramer?
Michael Kramer, it's been a long time. I have a question for you. If we called Chris Voss right now and asked him who the most important or favorite Michael Kramer in his life is, what do you think he would say?
That's an easy answer. The guy who read his audiobook. I promise you.
No, this is actually hilarious. So we've got Michael Kramer on today, and he is a co-author of a book called Empathetic Leadership with Chris Voss, who a lot of people in the real estate investing and entrepreneurial space have grown to love and be total fanboys and fangirls about that book.
It's actually one of my top 3 all-time books.
Yeah, it's I love it.
You're talking Never Split the Difference.
Yes.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah, I was searching on Audible for your new book, so I do a little prep work here. So we just learned right before the podcast, you mentioned there was, so Chris Voss's first book, Never Split the Difference, you mentioned that it was narrated by Michael Kramer, but not you.
Correct.
What,
Yeah.
what a coincidence is this?
If you get the book on Audible, it's read by Michael Kramer.
That is
And
hilarious.
it is not me.
So it's just another Michael Kramer that he happens to know. So
Apparently.
he must be like a huge diva or something where he's like, you know what? Nobody not named Michael Kramer is going to be involved in my next book.
But will he read your current book since you guys have the same names?
Right,
Like, will he say no?
Gosh, great question. I don't know who this man is. So I think that question remains unanswered.
The mystery Michael Kramer. Okay,
Right.
tell us the story, man. I have been dying ever since I saw you post on Instagram that book was dropping. I was like, what the hell? I mean, obviously no idea. you and I met years ago, I think at Brad Bader's house for
a
there was like a Husker party.
game. Yeah.
And I actually have, I think, talked to your son more recently than you. I think we bought a deal off you guys that you ended up wholesaling a couple of years ago. But tell us the story, man. Can't wait to hear this. How did this happen?
I'll try to make it exciting. It's sort of anticlimactic.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right.
So Owen's whole life is like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if that's true, so I didn't mean to be so agreeable right there. I wasn't sure. Yeah, so as soon as Never Split the Difference came out, you guys, I consumed that book immediately, and it was just like light bulb after light bulb after light bulb for me, because honestly, I had made so many mistakes in my past related to the relationships that mattered most to me, that I was trying to figure out how to relate to people better. I knew how to run a business. I knew how to grow a business. But building good, strong relationships that were enduring was something that felt out of reach for me. And Chris's book, what originally got me interested, you guys, is he's going to teach me how to be a better negotiator. And I'm like, perfect. I'm a business guy. I want an edge. Let me read this book. I read the book, and it certainly helped me learn negotiation skills. But more important than that, it actually taught me how to just have better relationships, period. And the tools in the book of mirroring, labeling, summarizing, the accusation audit, was all very uncomfortable to begin with, but when we started to use it, we rewrote all of the scripts for what we did for business. So the call scripts, the scripts when we're meeting sellers, everything was written based on Never Split the Difference, and it completely transformed our business.
Now,
and so,
for context here, you have a wholesaling business. That's what you're talking about, right?
Correct.
Okay.
At that time, we were strictly wholesaling at that time.
Okay, gotcha.
So it was a very utilitarian reason for buying the book. Well, as I started to use some of these things, and I liken it to learning to play the piano. I'm not a pianist, so no disrespect to anybody that knows how to play, but they tell me there's chords. Okay, so you play a chord and it sounds nice. And I'm thinking in my mind, I think the book actually, or another, I don't remember where I heard this, but it's like learning to play these chords. And when you don't know how to play them, you're not sure where to put your fingers, and so it's really awkward. And then you hit one, and you hear the music, and the other person responds in a way of like, that was really good. And the conversation all of a sudden changes for the better. So I've watched, how many ever hundreds of hours of Chris Voss is on YouTube? I've watched every clip. I watched everything. I signed up for his newsletter. I sold a course. Well, I didn't. I shouldn't take credit. I helped sell a course to a company in Louisiana that, had their whole sales team go through his training. I've talked to his staff multiple times trying to get content and get training myself. And I get an email one day saying, hey, we represent Chris, and he's writing a book, and he's looking for people to help. So would you be interested in submitting I was going to say an offer. Would you
force the habit?
Right. Would you be interested in submitting a story? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. So they told me what it was about, and I submitted a story, and they came back to me and said, hey, we like kind of where you're headed with this. We want to give you a ghostwriter and a editor. And if we like it at the end and you make the final cut, then you'll be in the book. So none of it was really assured until I was told that they liked the story. So that's how it all came about. And since then, and I hadn't met Chris to that point. The book, so we wrote the book, we published the book. Gosh, I don't know, you guys, probably 3 months later. God, I'm so bad with time, but recently I met Chris. So it wasn't that long after the book, and it wasn't that long ago I met Chris. We went to Vegas. We had a bestseller party, and he was there, and there were I don't know how many people in the book, 20 or so. I don't know for sure. There's probably 10 people that were able to come to Vegas. And the dinner started at 7 p.m., and I don't think I was the last one. The publisher was the last one, but I walked out with Chris probably about 12 a.m.
Yeah.
It was an amazing experience. Great guy. He's from Iowa. Did you know
What?
that? Yeah.
No, I didn't know
He's
that.
from Mount Pleasant, Iowa.
Man, my man.
Yeah.
I got to meet this guy.
Yeah. So it's not a great story as how it all came about, but it was driven by this, how it affected me and how passionate I was about using the tools. I think they just saw this guy's a super user. You know, he's always bugging us for stuff.
And they're kind of like, let's see what your story is
Right.
and make sure you're not a psychopath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like the third time reading or listening to his book. I read it the first time and I listened to it 2 more times after that. And every time I had like a big negotiation coming up or working on a deal, I started re-listening to it to
Yep.
get my mind around it. And there was a section I was listening to, and it was like reading the first time I read it. And I was like, man, this is hilarious. My wife is like just a complete hard ass when it comes to certain things, and she gets her way most of the time.
All the time.
You're still married, so I'm guessing that's true.
It works out. So I took the advice. I literally like memorized the section, went down there, and I'm like, oh, you know, I wanted to go to like a concert or something, and I went down there and I used it word for word.
Was it a no-oriented question? Do you remember?
Oh man, I don't remember I don't remember it. It's been like 2 years now, but I went down there and it was actually probably longer because I was painting my daughter's bedroom for her the baby crib and all that. So anyway, so I'm get it done, and she totally falls right into it, and it's something that she normally would have said no to.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, we're good after that. And there was some back and forth. I used it, and I just started hysterically laughing.
You're like, I got you.
And she's like, what?
You fell for it.
She's like, what is so funny? And I'm like, and at this point right now, there's no way I could admit it.
You're like, I'll tell you when I get home.
And no, this is in face-to-face downstairs. And
No, I know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you're like not going to tell her
After
until
the
you get
concert.
out of the house
Yeah.
and do the thing you want to do.
but I'm like, holy shit, it worked. And if she knows that I just mentally effed with her head, that she is going to be so mad at me. So I'm like, I can't say anything.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, Ted. When we started to do this, I'm a all or nothing guy. Like, I don't like to test things very much. It's like when something resonates with me, especially, I just do it. And so we started to implement this with the team, and the team was getting irritated. They're like, stop using these tactics. Like, stop using these tools. And I'm like, you guys, let's just trust this and trust that it's going to work. But to start with, one of the guys came up with this term. He's like, you're turning us all into brain ninjas. Like, we can mess with people's minds. I said, well, it just depends on where your heart is. If you have a good heart, if you're coming at it from the right place,
You have the right intention.
By the way, you can't mask that.
Yeah.
You either come at it from the right place or you don't. And if you do come at it from the right place, it's the most respectful way I have ever found to communicate with somebody, for one reason. It gets you to a point of collaboration faster than any other techniques I've ever used. And we've coined the phrase internally that we call that the thin place, where you've gotten so connected with somebody, you're so sincere and authentic in your approach, and you've used these tools, which feels utilitarian when you start, but when you see the effect, it's profound how willing people are to collaborate. And I have mentioned this to somebody else I was talking to about it, but it's like this. You've heard, you guys, this idea that when two people put their heads together, there's this third mind that is created.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it over and over and over again with Never Split the Difference stuff. You get this third mind. And I like the way Chris says it. He says, never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't accept something better. And so if you can go into a conversation with that mindset of, I have some ideas of what I want, but it's not at the expense of this third mind being able to be created, because odds are something better is going to come out of this. It's amazing. And so now, years later, I sit back and watch my children use it with each other. And it's literally changed every aspect of my life when it comes to relationships.
I also think this plays a role in just listening, because a lot of times there's conversations that happen and things go one ear and out the other, right? But using the system, you're actually like grabbing onto the words and you're listening and you're holding it in. So I think it just makes you a better communicator.
Great point. That's a great point.
Well, I think there's also the aspect of a lot of times if you're dealing in it, whether it's just a general life situation or a business situation, or you're trying to sell something or whatever, But you encounter all different personality types, and you have some people that are very closed off and suspicious in general, and are, you guys have seen this. You've been in sales. Like, you go out and meet with them, and they have their arms crossed. They're very defensive. Maybe they stand sideways a little bit. Like, there's just not trust there.
Right.
And I think, if you incorporate some of the tools that you're talking about, like a never split the difference, it's like carrying around a skeleton key to like a million different locks that could be out there.
I love that.
And if you do that, if you use it and you unlock their their shell, then you can actually have a conversation that's meaningful rather than being just defensive and they think you're out to get them or try and screw them over on something.
Yeah.
This is why it's one of my 3 favorite books.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody asks my
Absolutely.
top 3, this is in my top 3 every time.
For sure. And that word picture is actually a really good. I'm going to borrow that because that helps me describe what it does for me.
I have a ghostwriter, so I can't take credit.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Everything I'm saying here has been written by somebody else, by the way. So I'm not articulate or not to say that I would be otherwise, but
Hey, I don't want to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
no, I lost my thought. Thank you.
I was wondering what it's like working with a ghostwriter.
It's super easy.
Yeah. So is it? Well, I'm going to let you describe it, but it's more or less you hire somebody and tell your story to them, and then they put it in words, right?
Yeah.
On
So
a page.
I started with a written draft that was reviewed probably just to see if I could put 2 sentences together.
Yeah.
Is my guess. And then the ghostwriter came in and said, "Okay, here's the things when I read your transcript that jumped out to me, and these are the stories that we want to pull forward. And these other ones we're going to let behind." So they helped me sift what they thought would resonate best with the audience based on the overall objective of the book, which was I didn't know. I mean, they told me the title, and that was really it. And then they said, "Tell us your stories," and then that ghostwriter helped to shape that. The second thing they did is they interviewed me, and it was really, if you read the book, it's really from the interview more than what I wrote. It was more about what we talked about and how it impacted us and how we felt and thought differently after that. So it was amazing because they made it super easy. It was great.
Now, the title of the book, Empathetic Leadership, it's on Amazon and wherever you want to buy it right now, right?
Correct.
And hopefully one of the Michael Kramers will be narrating it sometime in the future for Audible purposes.
It will not be me.
Okay,
I
all
can
right.
assure you that. I'm considering hiring Ted.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah, for sure. How about you just do my chapter to start with?
Okay.
What he fails in accuracy on, he makes up for in enthusiasm.
There you
a lot
go.
of times, so that's why we like it.
Should I just record it just for fun, and then I'll send it to you? And
Yeah,
you can let me know?
yeah. You start with that and send it to him, and they're like, "Yeah."
Well, I have a confession to make, you guys. I got out of my truck. I walked halfway to the front door here, and I was like, "Oh, I forgot I have 2 books for you guys that I've signed."
Oh.
And I was going to bring you guys copies. You will get them, but
Okay.
Oh, that was very kind of
unfortunately
you.
I don't have
Autographed.
them.
Now you have to personalize
Absolutely.
them. Okay.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
For sure.
When I get them, can I purchase one extra one autographed, and then
For sure.
I'll do it. I'll give it away at the next REIA group too.
I'll give you an extra one for that.
Aw,
for sure.
Look at this.
For sure.
Big hug. Okay, this is amazing. And now, so you met Chris Voss post-mortem after your book
Correct.
dropped. And how's your life changed since then? Much different?
I think it's through, like, truthfully, you guys probably wouldn't have asked me to come on here had it not been for the book. And so I think things like this, and that's not don't take that as a slight. I mean, I know that you guys would probably love to hear my story, but the book certainly helped.
I was so blown away that you had it. I'm like, we got to talk about this.
Right.
So
right.
yes, that
Like,
was
this
that was
guy's
the
just
seed.
a real estate investor. Oh, he wrote a book. I get it. No. The way you looked at me was like, dude, seriously.
Owen has that what they call RDF face.
Yeah, I do have that a little bit.
But I would say that honestly, it's just given me an opportunity to express how that book has changed my life and how these tools it's really just a way of giving back. Honestly, like my greatest regret is related to not being married to my children's mom. And it's mostly because I didn't understand how to communicate. Like I I was very wed to my ideas. I would go into a discussion with, here's the outcome I'm going to get. I was very manipulative. I was very controlling. Mostly, I think, because I was afraid to just be present.
Takes a lot to admit that.
I mean, to show up and say, I'm okay with whatever you bring, to me, was a scary place. Not anymore.
Okay, maybe this is a good time hop moment. You touched on your ex-wife. Let's maybe jump back in time a little bit to what led up to things not going great in the marriage. You mentioned, maybe having some selfishness and like tunnel vision with your business that bled into your family life and personal life. What was Michael Kramer's life like pre, Chris Voss and pre like real estate investing? Maybe kind of give us an overview of that real quick.
Yeah. So the genesis, you guys, was when my dad passed away when I was 20 years old. My mom came to me. I'm one of 10 kids, and I'm the youngest boy. And she came to me and said she didn't have $600 to dig his grave. My dad was a business owner, well respected in the community. I can still go back to Cedar County, where I grew up, and tell them who my dad is and hunt any pheasant for any ground I want because they know the name.
I wouldn't say that on a public podcast, man. Your phone's gonna ring a lot.
Well, I'm not gonna take anybody pheasant hunting.
Okay.
I don't even take my own kids pheasant hunting. But the reason I say that is because Dad was a great guy, but he died broke. And I made a promise to myself that I would never let anyone in my family experience the pain of poverty again. And that when you make those kinds of promises to yourself, for me, I became laser focused. So I went to school. I met my wife in college. We both have teaching degrees. My ex-wife, we both have teaching degrees, and she thought she married a teacher. And so, what's that lifestyle like, right? It's
my wife's a teacher. I understand.
Yeah, you
that
get
myself.
it. Yeah. It's and that's what she expected. Like, we're gonna have a family. We're gonna have a lot of family vacations. We're gonna do a lot of stuff. And I'm like, we need to make money.
Yeah, you're gonna be broke also.
We are. Yeah, which is a sad statement, but true. So I was obsessed with starting a business. And I have, in the 25 or the 20, whatever it was, 20 years leading up to starting real estate, I had built, bought, and sold 7 businesses. So if you can imagine that life of, entrepreneurship and when it's like having a baby. Like every time you have a baby, for those who have not started a business, will understand if they have had a baby, like that baby requires all of your attention.
Yep.
And you're last. And so I gave everything to the businesses. And I loved it. There's scorecards called P&Ls, checking accounts, assets, liabilities. Like, I loved it. And I'm still all about it. I love business. But what I didn't realize is that singular focus came at the expense of some of the most important relationships in my life. My own sister at one point said she didn't trust me. Like, she said, you can sell whatever it was, ice to the devil, or I don't know what she said, but you can sell, but I don't trust you. And I was
ouch.
Yeah. And I think my wife, ex-wife now, was dealing with some of the remnants of an obsessed, crazy guy that is just about making money and growing a business. And by the way, this is all hindsight. In the moment, I thought I was doing everything right. And if you'd have asked me, it was all for her. It was all for the kids. Like, my intentions, I thought, were pure, but my execution sucked. And so it wasn't until after I read, and there was a book that preceded Never Split the Difference called Crucial Conversations that sort of cracked it a little bit open for me to say, okay, maybe I do have something to learn. And I would say that without reading that book first, which is more of a textbook, it's more... And I don't like textbooks. I like more practical, like here, do these things and you get results stuff, more applicable stuff. But the Never Split the Difference book completely changed things. I realized looking back that had I had those tools, my life may have been very different, but I didn't. And so the results are what they are. And now all I can do is commit to teaching those that now that I know the truth, I can teach, I can share it. And watching my own kids and having conversations with them, using these tools is amazing. and this term tactical empathy sounds utilitarian and like I'm using it against you. Couldn't be further from the truth unless your heart's in the wrong spot, because you could use them and really be a bad person.
Yeah, what NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, I think is the term. You guys heard that before. It's basically like
Sure, I use it all the time.
There's a lot of books written about it, but it's basically it's kind of, never split the difference tactics are useful for, situations where you're trying to achieve mutual success, or at least, as close to a win-win as you can possibly get. I think if your heart's in the right place, that's generally what you're going to use that information for. Mm-hmm. But, NLP is kind of an offshoot of this, where it's more focused on like, not really brainwashing, but it's a fancy way of gaslighting somebody.
Very individualistic.
Well, yeah, and it's using like mnemonic phrases and ways and language to basically get somebody to do exactly what you want. And for it doesn't, you don't necessarily have a benevolent goal in the end,
right.
The end in mind there. So.
Well, and I think if looking at my past life never split the difference, I'd say I didn't know it was a. If somebody would have said you're manipulating me, I would have been offended. Like because I felt like my intentions were more pure, but they really weren't. Mm-hmm. I was really using it to get what I wanted. Like I've been making deals since I was 14. You guys, like I was flipping cars to start with, and so I'm a deal guy. And in order to make money, you got to be able to understand how a deal works, right? And know how to negotiate a deal and how to get a deal. And sometimes that street smart stuff could be easily construed as manipulation. Yeah. So now I still use the tools, but with a different approach, completely different approach. And the outcomes are usually better.
Yes, for sure. Let's talk about when real estate entered the picture. Now, you mentioned you bought and sold 7 different businesses. I think I had heard somewhere, maybe on a podcast you did or your YouTube channel, that you had a construction background.
Correct.
Owned a franchise business, sold that.
Yep.
Had a non-compete, ended up working for Thrasher companies, which Ted worked at. And that's how you guys met originally. Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. Which, that's pretty cool. Small world.
We've had a few Thrasher people on this.
Yeah.
Austin Chambers, Wyatt Simon.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Wyatt's a great dude. I like Wyatt.
They churn out some salespeople there.
Yeah, they do.
But how did real estate enter the picture for Michael Kramer?
So,
not the voiceover specialist.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know his story, but I can share mine if you'd like.
Sure.
Yeah, so I never really wanted to get into real estate because I didn't want to deal with tenants. I didn't want to deal with maintenance. I loved flipping houses. I loved the no customer involved stuff, because then I could just go get work done, turn it, make money, and move on to the next thing. And so actually my wife now, Lucy, and I were working on a flip house in 2016. And it was 4th of July, 2016. And she said, let's go. We had some plans with friends later in the afternoon. Let's go work on the house for a little bit. And I'm like, great, because I don't know if you guys have done the Strengths Finder, but one of mine is Achiever. So every day starts at 0 for me, and I have to get something done to feel good about myself. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, yes, let's go do something, and then we'll go, drink beer or whatever we're going to do, watch fireworks. So we go. The house is on 35th and Walnut, right across from the school there. It's a 100-plus-year-old house. We had just sanded the floors. My wife walks in and kicks over a gallon of white paint on these just sanded floors, which none of those joints are perfect anymore. And so it's like a sponge soaking up this paint. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, you guys, let's what are we doing? So we get rags or whatever we had, mostly paper towels, clean it up. And I said, okay, I want to get one thing done. In the bathroom, there was a piece of trim that was, so it's a traditional bathroom, tub at the end, vanity, toilet on the side, walk in the door, you turn to the toilet, there was a piece of trim that returned to the door that I'm like, I'm going to get that trim put in. I start nailing it in. It's plaster and lath because it's an old house. The first nails go in right close to the door, but the wall had a bow in it. So I pushed the board thinking, okay, I'm going to face nail it. It wouldn't bite. Nails, 2.5-inch nails, still too short. So I decided to toenail it. Push it in, I hit the toenail. The nail comes back, goes into my eye.
What?
Oh, I wasn't expecting
this
that.
This is the story. Okay,
This is the story.
Okay, yeah.
The story.
Yeah. This was the I'm going to get into real estate story.
Wow.
Like
go ahead.
Not just to flip houses. And so we rush to the hospital. It's 4th of July. They think it's a fireworks accident. The nail was not a glancing blow. It was through the center of my pupil. The doctor said I can't measure how far off center because it was basically dead center.
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't the point. It was the head. So
And it was still in there when you went in?
I took it out.
Yeah.
I went up and I felt this, and I looked at my hand and it was clear, no blood. So I knew that I had a problem. Anyway, so multiple surgeries later, I'm laid up and I'm thinking I'm blind in one eye. Still to this day, I can't see out of my right eye. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do. And if you guys have ever closed one eye for a little while, your depth perception is pretty important, especially when you're using tools or climbing a ladder. There's some of these skills that depth perception really helps. And I just didn't feel confident. I still have all the tools, I still have all the knowledge, but my hand skills are so compromised. So I'm like, I got to figure something else out. And that's when Lucy said, hey, if we're going to depend on you to make money, doing what you've always done, which is construction, we're going to be broke. So we got to start buying some properties. So we did. And we started buying, and we were doing more wholesaling to start with to create some cash. And that was an amazing business. I love the wholesaling business. And it gave us a nice little nest egg to start buying and holding. So it wasn't until 2019 that we started to buy and hold properties. Today we have 400 cash flowing properties.
Holy moly.
Yep.
First off, I would never guess you're blind.
Yeah, I'm thankful.
I mean, because you can't even tell.
For about 2 years.
Now I'm staring at your eye.
Yeah.
I was doing that. I was trying not to, but I'm totally doing it too.
I have a trick question for you guys. Do you know how many sphincter muscles we have?
Ted must. I don't know what that awkward giggle was about.
No. It just sounds so
We
bad.
have 3. You know where the one is?
Yes.
The other 2 are in your pupils.
Huh.
And so that's the constricting and opening. You know what this motion is, right? So that's your pupils. And so the one, my right pupil is it doesn't work. And I got a transplant. So somebody else.
So you have a different lens in there. You have an artificial lens in your
There's
eye?
I don't have a lens, but I have a different cornea.
Okay.
So it's a cornea transplant.
Wow. Trippy.
They did a great job.
Yeah.
And for 2 years, everyone would say, "What'd you do to your eye?" And I got so tired of telling the story. And then my eye healed. And I'm like, thank God I don't have to tell this stupid story again. Because it's like extra. It just takes time. And
Well, now
and
here you're on a
everybody
podcast. Now everybody knows, so they
Right.
just won't ask.
Stop asking.
Just
Yeah,
keep on
there you
sharing. Just say something brings up, just share the
And
episode.
that was the foreword in the book, actually. He's just like, I am blind in one eye, people. Don't ask about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to you, Chris.
But the crazy part is that you really can't tell, though. I mean, that's awesome. But 400 units, man, that isn't no small feat. I mean, are we talking units or are we talking about like single family houses?
We're about 60% apartments.
Okay.
And 40% single family.
And where do these
It's
properties
all Nebraska. So our primary radius, I guess, would be an hour of Omaha. So Council Bluffs, we have several. Omaha, Lincoln, and then central Nebraska.
I knew that you had quite a few properties, but I was assuming that you were kind of like in that 60 to 80 range, which
Yeah.
is still a large portfolio, but 400 is pretty significant.
And I mentioned earlier that I tend to go all in
Yeah.
when I do something. And I think the way I approached real estate was just like I approached any other business that I built, which is it's a system and a process. And there's 7 critical functions to every business, and I just treated the real estate the same way. And so it allows us we have a big team. We have lots of processes. We have playbooks for everything. Everything's written down. We have what others would call a standard operating procedure. That all came from franchising. and that was my first business. So that has never left me. And when you can find a process to copy that works, that's my suggestion. Just freaking copy it. Don't be proud to say I have to create something new to make money. Zig Ziglar used to say, if you want to be successful, do what successful people do. So I just asked the question, who's successful? I want their playbook, and I just copied it.
Now, as far as you looking at the people in your organization, like, what's that look like? How many people do you have to run 400 properties, and what's the roles?
Yeah, so the key players, like we have really four main businesses that we run. So we have a acquisition business, we have a construction business, we have a property management business, and we have a finance business. And so Luke, my oldest son, runs the acquisition business. Paul, my youngest son, runs the construction, the rehab business. Ben, my son-in-law, and my daughter Elaine run the property management business. And myself, I really run the finance business. It's a fund. So we've got a private equity fund that we use to finance these deals, and we offer both debt and equity through that. And I run that.
Now, how is it working with your kids? 'Cause, we all wish that our kids would jump into our business. Every time we interview somebody, it's like, I hope they get into it, listen to it. But how is it really?
Long pause.
Yeah.
Big breath.
So it's bittersweet because there's seasons in the business, like seasons in life, right? So sometimes it's super easy and enjoyable because things are going well, right? We just closed a deal, just refinance something. It's like, oh, this is amazing. Like, everybody should do this. And then we have a season of, bad tenants or multiple evictions or a project, the city tags us on something. It's like Bellevue, right?
Interest rates double.
All of it. Yes. Yep. You guys get it. So it can be challenging because if you treat the business like a baby, like it gets everything, then the baby's always in your mind. You never forget it. So whether the baby's asleep or awake or hungry or needs a diaper change, the baby's always there. Same with the business. So when we're together, it's a balancing act to be able to sometimes just say, hey, happy birthday. I love you. I'm glad that you're my son. And not say, where are we at on that deal?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially when they love it too. And so it's this interesting, and I would say, you guys, that for me, I'm always checking the countenance of my children because I am a all or nothing person. Like, my wife and I literally, after a walk this morning, sat on our front porch and we're talking, and she said, what limit, like, how far will you go? And I said, I don't have one. I said death was my limit. Like, and it's
but meaning what? Like, in what context? Was she talking about work?
How far? How far will we push this business?
Okay.
Right, because you get to a certain scale, and you're asking yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? That's the genesis of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Good question, actually, because it's like, why was she asking me that? Well, she's like, is it worth it? Because we've had the last few weeks, we've had multiple conversations with some of our team members, some of them are children, saying, this is hard. Like, this is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And so that all rolls up to us, and then we sit down after a walk and say, okay, is it worth it? We do all of this so that. Is the so that still big enough?
Yeah, and so that's kind of like calibrating with your significant other. I'm assuming that maybe that didn't happen as much in your first marriage. Yeah.
Zero.
So I think that's the check-in or the calibration and just like, how are you?
How are we?
What, yeah.
How am I?
What's going on? Yeah, just like kind of the what's going on conversation. Because like with that many kids and that many family members that you have, I mean, it's kind of like herding cats, and then you got business sprinkled in there too with everything else. Yeah, I couldn't even imagine trying to keep track of all of it and then make sure you have your true north still pointing in the right direction, right?
A big driver for us, you guys, is, and if you've bought properties, you know that there's a certain category of seller that they bought these properties and it's usually a small handful, with this idea that it's going to be an amazing journey. And they quickly realize that unless they have systems and processes and they're at any kind of scale, that business really is like they just caught a tiger by the tail. And every time they turn around, that tiger's swiping at them.
Mm-hmm.
And they get scratched up and they get clawed. And they're like, this thing's going to eat me. Like, I don't want this thing. And so we like the don't wanters, right, as a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want a seller. I want a don't wanter, because then I can, get a better deal. But I don't want that to happen with what I give my kids. And so there's really twofold reasons. One is I want them to understand what they're going to inherit and understand how to keep it going, because I don't want them to sell it. But I also want them to then understand the power of it, so then they can grow it, however they see fit.
I was thinking about, while you were describing that we got a tiger by the tail, and then you were talking about you don't want a seller, you want a don't want her. This week has been a total roller coaster for we have kind of similar, maybe a little bit different businesses, but we have an acquisitions business where we'll either buy and sell something, or we'll buy and keep it, or whatever. We don't really wholesale, but mostly what we do is wholesale, flip, or keep as a rental. Those are kind of the three different iterations. But we've had a variety of different situations where people have called us with a house they want to sell. And I've noticed something over the years of doing this, where if people call you, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this, but when your phone rings and you answer and somebody starts telling you about all their problems, that's a don't want her. When you have somebody calling you and describing their house to you, and they want to tell you how many square feet it is,
how much the neighbor's house sold for,
exactly, yeah. and those generally, not always, generally are not properties that you end up buying, or if you do end up negotiating for it, it's pretty thin. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think we're looking for distress, right? So the 95% of properties that are sold are listed. They're sold through traditional means with agents and brokers, and that's a great system. We don't hunt there. Like, we're looking for the 5% that are some sort of distress, whether it's a tired landlord, or it's, a death in the family, or whatever, divorce, anything, right? And that's really the property that we want, because those are the folks that are needing help to get out of a property that they otherwise would have to spend money on to get it to a point where a realtor would say, and by the way, I'm saying this as a belief, right? They believe they could list it and sell it as is, and a realtor would sell it as is. But they believe that they have to clean it out, right?
Yes.
Nobody's going to want to see this.
Yep.
So and maybe they're ashamed. Whatever those emotions are, right?
They don't want people in the neighborhood knowing what their house looks like. They could have neighbors coming by.
As soon as you put a sign in, the neighbor's going to walk through. And
it's an
like, can you
invitation.
believe how Susie lived? Like, this is crazy.
Yes.
So whatever drives them, I think it's sort of out of my reach a little bit to know exactly what's driving them. But I think those are the folks that make most sense for us to buy. That's on the single family side, for sure.
So you guys are competing a lot against each other. Is it safe to say? Have you guys ran across each other?
I mean, sure, yeah, we have. I wouldn't say it's a regular occurrence, but
there's also many other people that you guys are probably competing against.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So what are you guys doing to stand out, from the others? Like, what tactics are you guys using?
So we used to go direct to seller for years, and actually stopped going direct to seller about a year ago, because the spend on our marketing just wasn't getting us the yield.
Yeah.
So we're now partnering with realtors, and we've developed what we call a perfect buyer program. And so we train the realtors in exactly what we're looking for, how it works, and then we pay them a guaranteed commission. And so that we're just rolling that out, and we've got a large outfit in town that has agreed to partner with us, and we've agreed to give them exclusivity, assuming that we hit certain metrics. So that would be one thing that we're doing, just trying to be creative. And if I'm being honest, I think part of it also is this idea that there's some uncertainty in the realtor world because of NAR, and I don't understand all of that because I'm not one.
I agree. We had a whole entire meeting this week about that.
Yeah, so if we can come in and provide some, like, here's a piece of paper with a plan, Here's how you can make money in this market, and here's how we will help come alongside you. I think there's a certain number of realtors who want that. And so we can come alongside and say, hey, we'll help you if you can help us buy some more stuff. And I'm not in that space at all. My wife and I have decided we're only buying multifamily, but my kids still are buying single family stuff.
Yeah. I think, well, to answer your question, I can, I'll give an example. So this morning, before the podcast, I had an appointment in South O, kind of like 42nd and like L area, right around there. Kind of an older neighborhood, probably houses built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and kind of smaller type, 2-bed, 1-bath, garage, but smaller floor plans. Now, and this guy was kind of like, I could tell right away when he called that he was kind of a get to the point type of a guy, or at least he was portraying himself that way. And then when I showed up, he had wrecked his knee, and he was kind of hobbling around on crutches. And I'm like, hey, you don't have to go in the basement. He wanted to show me the basement,
Sure.
wanted to show me around the house, and his sister was there too. And we were talking, and they were very, I wouldn't say standoffish, that's not the right term, but they were guarded, very guarded. And so to answer your question, Ted, I think it's people like dealing with people that they feel are being genuine with them, and people that are asking the relevant questions. And so I've always felt
People that create a relationship.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I've always felt like it's no different than walking into a room with people you don't know and disarming them by making them uncomfortable. That's the secret, I think. But it's not anything that I think with practice anybody can do that and get better at it.
Yep.
But it's more of just being yourself, and that comes through in being genuine. And people will let their guard down a lot more. And you can.
No question.
And I'm not saying that you're doing. I don't ever do this like on purpose, but like just I'm curious and I just ask a lot of questions, just like I do on a podcast.
That's why you're here.
Yeah, and but the more you start talking to people, immediately one thing I always try to do is find a common thread with.
Yeah.
I have something in common with them in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't matter if they're male, female, like old, young, straight, gay. It doesn't matter. I'll try and find something that we have a shared history, or maybe we know some of the same people, and that immediately makes people more comfortable because they feel like they can relate to you.
I've done sales my whole life.
Yeah.
And when we worked together, in that same company, but we had to do sales inside people's homes.
Mm-hmm.
That was so easy to me because you could walk in and you could look. I would look at all the pictures on the walls and look at their knickknacks. I'm like, okay, what do I have in commmen with you? And then I'm like, oh, I like that team, or I love camping too, or I saw the car in the garage, and I always when I came in, I'm like, well, let's just start off with a quick walk of the house. And it was like the opposite. They always said, go to the couch and talk. I'm like, no, I want to see everything in the house, and I want to find my commonality with this person so we can create a relationship, become friends, and then everything is easier after that.
I'm going to give you an example. The same appointment this morning. So this guy, he's hobbling around. He was having some pretty major family problems that were causing him to want to get out of that house and do it quickly, right? And I won't get into those, but he had on an LSU polo, like a Louisiana State University polo. And I brought up the College World Series. I said, oh, are you an LSU fan? Because I was at the College World Series, and we're in Omaha. For those listening outside the market here, College World Series is like one of our big things each year.
Our biggest thing.
Last year, LSU came to town, or the last several. Anytime they come to town, they have an awesome fan base, and Omaha has basically adopted them as kind of like our. If we can't field a team that's going to actually make it to the CWS, we're going to root for these guys because they're great. And so one of my friends owns a bar called Rocco's.
Oh, the shot bar.
Rocco's and Lefties. He owns. He actually owns 4 bars. Used to be 5, but now 4. And he has the Jello Shot Challenge. And so LSU.
I added the numbers up on that, by the way, yesterday when I was looking at and I was like, that's over 50,000 Jello shots.
Yeah. So
are they truly $5 a piece?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So 2 years ago when LSU was here, the owner of Raising Cane's, I'm going to tell this story for those that don't know it. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So the owner of Raising Cane's came in. This guy's just, he has no partners. He just has more money than he knows what to do with. Flew to town. LSU was playing. He go into Rocco's. They have the Jello Shot Challenge, and what it is they offer you the opportunity to, if you order these Jell-O shots, you can say, okay, I'm ordering 5 Jell-O shots. My team is LSU, or my team is, Nebraska. Not that they ever make it, but, and then they'll put it up on a leaderboard, right? And so the more of those teams, fans that come in and order Jell-O shots, it accumulates over the course of the College World Series. And you'll have teams that get knocked out early, like Virginia got knocked out pretty early, and they have 1,000 or 1,500. Pretty lame. Get it together, Virginia. But anyway, so the Raising Cane's guy, this is a funny story. So he was bound and determined that he was going to have the Guinness Book of World Record for a number of shots bought at one time. And it was don't quote me on this, but it was 8,250 shots. And so the story goes, he had a private, he flew in on a private jet. He had to fly out that night, and he's talking to the owner of the bar, my friend Kevin. He's like, hey, I want the record, and I'm tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy 6,000 shots right now. I have to fly to New York to, I believe he said, Madison Square Garden. I'm picking up Joe Burrow, and I'm flying him back. He's going to go to the CWS, and I'm going to bring him here. And then I'm going to buy the rest of them that are going to cement my world record.
And Joe Burrow's family happens to be from Omaha.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, his brother lives here.
So
That's
he
great.
so he leaves, buys the 6,000, leaves on his way to pick up Joe Burrow. His buddy, immediately after he leaves, buys 6,001 shots.
You're kidding me.
No,
Oh,
I
that's
swear.
great.
He told me this story on Wednesday. Kevin did.
Was he another LSU guy?
Yes. So he the Raising Cane's guy flies back, and he's all mad, kind of fake outraged, and then ended up getting it. And so that year they sold 60,000 some shots.
Oh my goodness.
66,000 or something like that.
Wow.
And but I'm so happy for him because he had a really tough time during COVID. My buddy that owns the bar, so this is a great comeback.
Well, just
story for him.
shots is going to make the whole revenue for the year.
How do you make that many Jell-O shots?
They make them all on site now. They made 7,000 at a time. He
Wow.
told me they make them right outside. He's like, "Here's our operation," and he's pointing out all this stuff to me. It was hilarious.
I mean, you got to refrigerate them to get them
yeah,
gel. I mean,
yeah. So that's quite the deal. So anybody catching this, you've never heard of or been to the College World Series, you got to come and go to Rocco's. Have the Jell-O shots. It's awesome. It was on ESPN. All the news stations pick it up. It's
That's
awesome.
what I was just watching the stat report the other day, and it's it's over 50,000 right now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I was just thinking, how much money is that?
So what do you do when you buy 6,000 shots?
So
what do you actually do with 6,000
So
shots?
apparently they don't actually ship them, or put them out there. But you take whatever you have, and then they'll donate. I think it's 40%, maybe right around there, to that school that you're pledging it to their local food bank or charity or whatever.
So Rocco's doesn't have to deliver 60,000 shots.
Now they did do something with
I thought they did this whole
my
time.
gosh.
The University of Tennessee is they're leading right now.
Yeah.
And it's in the teens, 15,000 or something like that. But I guess they had coordinated somehow with that they were going to ship them or something like that to Tennessee. Again, don't quote. I didn't know I was going to be telling this story, so I haven't fact check all this. But anyway, little interlude there. So Michael, tell us about. I caught on one of your sound bites that you had on your YouTube channel. You talked about financial freedom. Maybe talk about that. The handle that you have for YouTube and how that all came about. What was it that led to? Is it Freed by Real Estate? Is that right?
It is.
Okay.
Freed by Real Estate.
Can you tell us what is that? How did that happen? What was the catalyst?
Yeah. So Freed by Real Estate is our front-facing brand that we use to attract investors to invest alongside us in real estate. So whether it's a equity play on something where they have ownership, or there's private lending or debt on a deal, or if somebody needs to borrow money, we have the ability to do that through the fund that we've developed. And so Freed by Real Estate is the brand that we market that under.
Okay, awesome. Now, if memory serves, I recall a 90-unit property being somewhat significant in your story.
For sure.
Is that true?
For sure.
Okay. Would you mind telling us about it?
Yeah, that is sort of the most recent pivotal moment, I would say, in my journey. And if you guys look back, I'm sure you each have these moments where you're like, that worked better than I thought, and so let's do more of that. And that 90-unit deal was certainly one of those. It was in 2019. I sent a postcard to a gentleman And he responded with, not interested in selling anything, but I'd like to meet. So we ended up building a relationship, had coffee. We bought an 8-unit building from him about a year later. And then in 2021, he came to me and said, hey, I've got an 88-unit apartment complex. It's actually a dispersed site, 4 buildings, and I'd like to sell those 4. And so, honestly, I was scared to death.
Yeah, I was. Were you like,
Exactly. You saw the pause on, like the look on my face and the pause. Like, what do I even say? Because that's how I felt. It was like, did I just grab a tiger by the tail? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to do this.
Am I biting off more than I can chew?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. We've got this like rinse and repeat. We have our single family business dialed in, from the time of acquisition till refi, it's 90 days, and it's, 6 weeks of rehab, and like we've got it like rinse and repeat. And then we see this big thing come across, and we're like,
The next big shiny thing.
right.
Yeah.
If you like, the word picture that comes to my mind is like the pig through the python, right? If I eat this pig, I'm not going to be hungry for a while, and there's a lot of mice I want to eat, and I was scared to even try it. So we actually started to talk to other people about potentially buying it. Like, we thought, do we just flip it? Do we, we had negotiated pretty good terms, or do we keep it? And it wasn't until we actually brought it through a potential syndicator and said, hey, would you be interested? And he said yes. And he walked us through all the numbers, and then he backed out, that we were left at the altar saying,
Really?
oh, yeah. So what do we do? Like, this is decision time. We've used all of our due diligence. What are we going to do? So I went back to him. I remember I met him at a restaurant here in town, and he was going on a bike ride, and he met me there, and I said, I don't think I can buy this. Like, this is more than I can do. And he said, Mike, we've been through this for 90 days. I know you can do it. You've done it in the past on smaller deals, even including deals that I'd purchased from him. And he's like, I'll support you. You can do it. So he ended up agreeing to a seller carry, which was larger than the first position with the bank. That seller carry allowed me to then feel comfortable to go to the bank and say, okay, I'm going to do this on my own. The challenge was I had to use portfolio equity of our single family properties to fund the rehab. And that scared. It was I remember asking for $1 million because our business plan called for 810. And I'm thinking, if it's like anything like a single family, every one of those damn houses costs me more money and takes a little longer than it should.
Right.
So I'm going to have a cushion. It came in at right at $800,000, and we got it all done in 21 months. The seller gave me a 2-year balloon, interest only for 2 years. So I'm like, that's my clock. So within 21 months, we went through 54 units of the 88. We added 2 units to one of the buildings because it was an unused community center, turned it into 2 more apartments.
Did you just not feel right about having the weird number 88? You're like, this needs to be 90, damn it. We'll turn 2 of these closets into units.
Yeah, no, it's funny because we were thinking if we don't have demand, then there's the value add is just going to be leveling up the actual units, and hoping we can raise the rents. And the building I'm talking about is in Columbus, and this building, there's a waiting list for this building, and so we're like, there's a community center, nobody rents, let's turn that thing into 2 units. So that was the most expensive rehab on that property because we had city and building permits and all the stuff involved, and starting from scratch, switching from a single unit to 2 meters for the electrical, 2 HVAC systems, the whole 9. So, but it turned out to be great, and so now that's 26 units of the 90.
Wow. Do you mind if I pick this apart a little bit?
Please.
I'd kind of love to dig into this a little bit. So you repositioned an apartment building over a period of a couple of years almost.
Yep.
And how many units total did you turn, did you say?
We turned 54.
54.
Plus the 2 we added, so 56.
Yep. And now okay, so, all right, you saw this, 4 different buildings, 22 units per building, you added a couple more, so you're like, all right, this thing is not living up to its full potential. So I would assume that you saw an opportunity to add value through cosmetic improvements, better management, improving your top line, bottom line by reducing expenses, all that.
Correct.
what did you do? Like, what are the first steps? So I say, hey, Michael, hot potato, catch. It's a 90-unit building. What are you going to go out and do to this thing?
Well, we're going to figure out the current status. I think the challenge for the larger assets, it's true, by the way, what I'm about to say is true for any size investment property. And that is that every one of them is run as a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so we always looked at it and said, what's the business plan for a single family, right? It's pretty simple. If it's a BRRRR, it's a rinse and repeat. On this larger unit, we're saying, how was it run before? What were the deficiencies both in the operations, but then in the actual asset itself? And then you start piecing it together. And so through interviews with the seller, through interviews with maintenance, talking to tenants, we start piecing all these things together, and it paints a picture of, okay, we got a bad reputation. We got maintenance being dispatched from 2 hours away, so they're not getting taken care of. You got tenants who've been there for 10, 15 years, and they're just angry because the old manager doesn't want to do anything.
He wouldn't get off his wallet.
Right. And I'm just seeing these opportunity. And so, and there was plenty of deferred maintenance. These buildings weren't that old. They were built in late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So they were not, like, structurally they were great. It's like HVAC and cosmetic mostly. Some landscaping, some, tenant care for trash and that kind of thing. But overall, we just walked through and interviewed, put the business plan together, and we always, at the time it was brand new, but now we just rinse and repeat this model of a rolling rehab. So we're taking the vacant units first, leveling up those to what we call our HGTV standard.
Mm-hmm.
We go to existing tenants that are great tenants. We show them these units. We say, hey, do you want to stay where you're at? We're going to raise the rent to X. It's going to be below market, but we're going to raise the rent on you if you stay. You can move here for an extra $100. About 30% of the folks move. So they'll move into a new unit. It frees up another unit then for us to remodel, and we do that over and over again.
Interesting.
Once we've got to the point where nobody's willing to level up, then we raise rents on everybody except the ones that have already, leveled up, and see how they tolerate it.
Yeah.
And if they tolerate it and stay, then because we have also at the same time hired a full-time on-site maintenance guy.
Okay.
And said, hey, everything that's going on with this building, take care of it. Make sure these tenants are happy, because we're going to start raising rents. And if they don't tolerate these rent increases, we're going to have to rehab more units. So it's a balancing act of trying to figure out. Up front, we said, can we do all 90 or all 88? I hope we don't have to, because we didn't have the budget for it. We had $1 million we could use. By God's grace, it was 800 of the $1 million that we needed to get to the 56 units.
That is a lot of units
It's huge.
in not quite 2 years. I mean, that's a heavy lift.
Plus, not being going outside of town for that too.
Right. So it's interesting because I'm a small town guy. I think I mentioned to you off camera, Ted, that I grew up in a small town northeast Nebraska, and these are all located in small towns. And so I know the sentiment in a small town is, is he from Omaha? Don't have somebody from Omaha come in here and take my business. So we were very intentional about hiring local people. So we worked with the local supply houses, we worked with local subs, and we brought all local people in because we wanted the goodwill of that local to come into play. And without that, we would not have been able to move that quickly. The guys that we ended up hiring, so we had 2 crews per project and 2 jobs per crew, because you start, the phase of the project are demo, rough in, wait till drywall's done, then finish. And so they could jump back and forth. So when we do demo rough in, go to the next one, demo rough in. When that was done, come back to the first one, do finish, and just hopscotch kind of back and forth.
Hey, can you these were vintage 20 years old-ish units, maybe give or take 20, 25.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like mechanicals. It's not like you were dealing with like a super old boiler system or baseboard heat and or aluminum wiring. Like all that's fairly good.
Correct.
What does it cost, or what did it cost? I know this is year and a half ago probably when you were kind of getting toward the tail end.
Yep.
Per unit, if you wanted to do the same thing, you said fixtures, paint, flooring, countertops, maybe appliances.
Yeah, we did. So we did. It's truly an HGTV standard, except for no stainless. So we did granite countertops, soft close cabinets, engineered floor, the 20 mil wear layer on the LVP, no carpet, everything's painted, doors trim, white, walls agreeable gray, ceilings white, all new electrical fixtures. You guys have seen it 100 times.
Yep.
So that we had 2 and 3 bedroom units. By the way, this what blew my mind. These are all built as 2 bed 2 bath or 3 bed 2 bath. So these were huge. They're 800 and 1,000 square feet. Yeah, you don't
find those very often. 3 bed 2 bath apartments.
And we're renting those for less than $1,000. Wow. Completely renovated.
Wow.
And we're not near the top of the market. So there's still,
you have room to run.
We do. Yeah. So, but yeah, we were wanting to get through those as quickly as we could. 800 to 1,000 square foot. It averaged about 14.8 per unit.
14.8. Okay.
That included appliances.
I was gonna guess like 13 to 15 grand.
Yep.
Yeah. So
you're right there.
Yeah.
You mentioned in the beginning that you're doing actual interviews. So did you go through and interview every tenant that you had and just was taking feedback from them to determine how each unit would look, or what kind of questions were you asking?
Yeah, so the initial interviews, when we do a property walk, we bring like 10 people because we'll assign checklists to each person and say one person only does tenant interviews. So there's a door knocker, there's a person taking pictures, there's a tenant interviewer. That's the inside team. That tenant interviewer has a list of questions. How long have you been here? Do you have pets? How many people are living here? Because all that's going to just depend on when we look at the lease. How does that jive? Who's the person in the other bedroom? You said you're the only one living here. Do they stay here? Right? All of those questions. And then we ask, how often do the police show up? Do you know why they're showing up? Then we ask, what are your maintenance concerns? Do you have any? When you ask for a maintenance repair, how long does it take? All that gets compiled. And then we just look at it at the end and say, okay, that's telling us from what our customers are telling us.
This is gold.
Once we have that, now we know what our business plan is
as
far as the tenant side. And my son-in-law and daughter run the tenant side. So it's like, here's what we need to do immediately to solve these problems.
Man, I would love to appropriate that information from you somehow. That's so good.
We've got it on a Google Drive, and we use it for every property.
You probably get some in one of your webinars.
I haven't done that on a webinar, but I certainly could. Yeah.
No, that's great.
You can have it. So somebody else gave it to me, so you can have it.
Yeah. So you're assessing. Okay, what is current state? What are the people unhappy about? Then that will lead you down the path of knowing how can we solve their problems quickly to make them happy right away with our coming in, the new sheriff in town, and showing goodwill. And then also to dovetail with that, you made inroads with local businesses and providers and vendors and said, hey, we want to work with you. Yes, we're from Omaha, but we're not the big city folk. I'm from the Valley, right?
Absolutely. I grew up in Hardington.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's the lead in, little Chris Voss action there. And I love it. That's a genius approach to this. And I like I don't have as good of a systemized approach to interviewing the tenants. It's more just like conversational and passing. But I love that.
Well, if you have the anecdotal, communication is great too, because you tell these stories and you say, this is what I think. But it's amazing what happens when you put it on a piece of paper and you say, nobody said the police were called. And so let's check with the police department. Or they say the police.
Good too.
We just had a deal that we backed out on because the message from the seller was it's a very clean area, or a very safe area, very clean neighborhood. And by all appearances it was. We called the police department. They said they had been there 80 times since January. This was in May.
Oh, boy.
We're like, what are you guys showing up for? And they just started giving us the list of things. And we're like, you got the wrong tenants, dude. Like, you think you got the right tenants? I'm not paying for this. So more important than anything, you guys, is the tenant care piece is the biggest piece to me that drives whether this works or doesn't.
You got Owen's jaw down on the ground right now.
I love that. I love that tip. And I had I was thinking back while you were mentioning that. A friend of mine had a 26-unit property in Council Bluffs, and it had like the worst reputation in town. Like there were like prostitutes in the hallways, like condoms everywhere, all kinds of drug calls all the time with the police. And they ended up selling the property for like, this is 26 units, and it was probably 80s built, maybe 70s, but it was set up well in a good spot, close to downtown, but not on the bad side. but it was just grossly mismanaged, and they had unaddressed all kinds of deferred maintenance and just the wrong tenant class there. And I had my friend call, and he's like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And it was like, I think it had sold for like in the fives, like $500,000 or something like that. And the guy that bought it, and I was always like, "Oh man, that would," and I wasn't ready. I'm glad I didn't, because that would have been a nightmare. But I remember just the constant police activity there all the time. And that is a really hard thing to overcome, because you have a stigma about an address. When you have, and that's one thing about single family versus multifamily, there's always that debate, you know, like what's the better asset class. That's the one thing about multifamily that is really a slow burn, is trying to overcome a stigma that's developed over a bad reputation because of tenants or drugs or crime or whatever. And I love that you brought that up, and you backed out of a deal because of that. And that's because that's 2 years of your life at least to turn a reputation around, and a lot of stress.
Well, and it's going to burn out my property managers.
Yes.
They don't want to work at a place where they're constantly getting those calls.
Yep.
One of the things to piggyback on that we've done in the past is the police will, depends on who they are as far as willingness to help, but oftentimes they will come and partner with you, and they will say, as soon as I get it, like they'll get names of who it is, and it allows us to give notices much more quickly. And so if you have these are challenging properties if you have a lot of police calls.
Yeah.
So I'm not recommending that anybody do this, but if you're going to,
if you're so inclined,
if you decide this is, you know, your flavor, get the police involved, because they're reporting. They will give you who it is, and they'll tell you what it was for, and most often it's going to be a violation of the lease. And it's you can get them out easier and faster if you do that, instead of trying to find it through the neighbors.
So out of all
in addition to, sorry.
Of all the situations you dealt with, what's the craziest or oddest investment story that you've ever had? Like, you know, dead bodies, you know, drug dealing. Like what's the most like podcast worthy story that you've had? So I wasn't at the property. But we have a property, still own it in Lincoln, and it's a multi-unit, like a 5-plex building. It's a conversion, and so some of those are interesting in and of themselves when they're converted buildings. And this one was the tenant on the main level and the tenant up above were fighting each other, like in an argument, verbal argument, and it escalated, and the tenant upstairs came down to the main level with a knife, and ended up, you know, trying to open the door of the guy on the main level. Well, the guy on the main level came out, and they started to fight, and the guy was stabbed multiple times. He survived. He lived. But what was interesting, you guys, is when the police showed up, the guy that was doing the stabbing asked the police to shoot him, because it was I learned later what the cop said. Suicide by police.
Suicide by cop.
Yeah. So he was provoked. Like, he provoked this innocent guy on the main level for no reason. Then the guy still lives, I believe, there. Good tenant, no issues. So he gets in a fight with this guy. They end up rolling on the front porch, stabs the guy, and then he ends up. The cops didn't shoot the guy. They arrested him and got him out. But that would be the craziest story, because it's like. Wow. If you're going to do something like that, I mean, it's crazy enough to think, and I don't want to disparage anybody that's in that situation and is, you know, hurting. That's a sad state. But to go to that point, I think is pretty incredible.
I have a friend that's on the police force, and he's now been involved with 2 officer-involved shootings now. And both of them were these situations.
Oh, boy.
And one of them, he even caught himself on fire, and inside an apartment.
He set himself on fire.
Yeah.
Wow.
And another situation was he's robbing a place with the whole intention of being shot by the cops, and it was interesting stories, and you know, but these people think that they're trying to get out an easy way, but what it does mentally to these police officers, and you know, and the legal side that they have to go through when they kill somebody,
I can't even imagine.
I gotta say, not to be morbid, but setting myself on fire would be probably the last thing that I would do.
It's so hot.
Yeah,
it's so hot.
Jeez Louise, it's like, I hate getting burned.
The crazy part is that after that happened, I remember seeing that news, but I didn't put it together. But this building, I had a buyer for it. And,
Oh boy.
and they're like
The one where he set himself on fire.
Yeah, we had a furnace fire, and then we started looking at it, and then we did more and more investigation on it. Found out it wasn't that situation. And then I happened to know the cop that was involved with it. And I was like, "Oh my God, what happened
Jeez.
here?"
Well, if you don't laugh about it, you just cry because it's sad that people get to that point.
Yeah, fair enough. Once you mention that,
Yeah, a little gallows humor there. Sorry, listeners.
Yeah, I feel bad.
Hey, anybody going through a hard time, just give us a call. We'll do the best we can.
Maybe we need to put one of those credits at the end for
phone number to call.
Yeah.
Oh man,
there is a phone number to call, and if you're in one of those situations, go ahead and look into it, and it's on Google.
Well, I think we've been talking about stuff that hasn't been going well for people in their lives. Should we maybe talk about our favorite segment, the
Failing Forward? And this Failing Forward is brought to you by REsimply.com. If you're in the real estate game like I am, you know just how wild it can get managing everything from lead tracking to marketing, sales, and operations. That's exactly where REsimply, an all-in-one software for real estate investors, comes in. It's a lifesaver for thousands of investors out there. What's incredible about REsimply is that it is packed with everything you need. List stacking, driving for dollars, automated drip campaigns, a cold call calling dialer, complete phone system, email management, speed to lead, buyer management, a comprehensive task system, accounting features, and much more. It's like a powerhouse software crafted just for us in the real estate world, eliminating the need for juggling multiple subscriptions and integrations. So check out REsimply if you want to streamline your investing business and start closing more deals. Sign up through REsimply.com/Hartman. That's REsimpli.com/HARTMAN. And you'll snag 50% off of your first month. Plus, they're going to throw in a 14-day trial, so don't miss out and give it a look.
So here we go, talking about something that might have happened in your life or business, or a deal that didn't go according to plan. Lessons learned along the way. Got anything that you're able to tell us about?
Yeah, when I think about the first story that comes to mind is probably it's a very difficult story because of it affected such a dear friend of mine, someone that I had known for 20 years. And we were business partners together and had invested in properties in Nebraska, in Iowa, and in New Orleans. And it was in November of 2022, I got a call that my business partners had taken his life. And so...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Well, and I as hard as it was for me, I mean, he left four kids.
That wasn't long ago.
In his family, right? His wife and 4 children, and one of the best guys I ever knew. Like, honestly, really a great human being. The challenge to that was later I learned that he had allegedly involved himself in some criminal activity. And so several of the lenders that I had dealt with, either on my own or with this individual, were now questioning me.
Oh, guilty by association.
Exactly. Yeah. And so for a period of about 3 months, I was meeting, it wasn't that long, for probably 2 months, I was meeting with different lenders, different vendors that we both had dealt with, and having to try to convince them that I had nothing to do with it and wasn't part of it. And totally by God's grace, I wasn't. I still don't know what ultimately led to his demise. And it's an ongoing investigation. So, and then we're talking about FBI and FDIC and a lot of complicated issues there that I don't even know about.
Is this the one that's been in the news?
It is.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so for me, the hardest part of that was, how do you convince somebody that you didn't do anything wrong? You know what I mean? It's like, it's this, because of we would sit down and sign together. We would do deals together. So how does the lender now separate us and say Owen is good and Ted is not.
That is really hard.
It's
That's really hard to do.
The most difficult time in business that I can remember. And I remember having a conversation with my wife. So I'll give you a specific where that part was easier. What was really difficult was some of the properties that we had owned together. More debt was placed on these properties than they were worth.
That you didn't know about.
That I didn't know about. Oh. And so I had a decision to make with these lenders to say, my name's on the note, and if you foreclose, I'm responsible. So what do we do? So I remember talking to my wife about it, and our vision, our purpose for our business is 100 years. Like, we're thinking about great grandkids that we don't even know yet.
Yep. Legacy wealth. Yep.
Exactly. And if that's true, we had to ask ourselves, what position do we want to put those people in with this decision? We could foreclose. We could let them take them back, but it would hurt our reputation. Now the Kramer name is going to be affected, and when my kid goes into a bank and says, "Hey, I'm, Luke Kramer," that's going to be associated.
Yep.
And so we said, we're going to swallow that, and we ended up. It was hundreds of thousands. It was shy of $1 million, but hundreds of thousands of dollars that we had to come out of pocket to make those lenders whole and agree to take those loans, even though they were upside down. And then had to make all the repairs to the property. They inspected everything, and they knew how.
Oh, the lenders did.
Yeah, they knew how bad they were, and so in order for them to be comfortable, they had to see that we had done all the repairs. So we had to take the upside down loans, and we had to write checks to fix these properties. So that process, it was probably 2 years of working through that. We're just at the end of it. I mean, now we're in 2024, so I would say it was the end of last year, so not quite 2 years of working through that. But the difficulty in that time, you guys, is not about doing the work. It's about dealing with the betrayal, and it's easy to say I'm going to do what I say when there's nothing at stake.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I'll pick you up at 6. No big deal. It's easy to say that. But then when you say, I'm going to satisfy these hundreds of thousands of dollars that I don't have
Yeah.
and figure out a way to do it, not for me, but because I want my great grandkids to have a good, chance to walk into that same bank. That was a true test for me like I'd never felt before. And again, I think it's really by God's grace that we didn't get we had no association or knowledge or experience with any of what he did. And I do think, looking back, that he protected me, because I would ask him often, what are you working on? Like, you're into some other stuff. Give me a sniff. I want a piece of it, because he was making a lot of money. And he kept saying to me, when it's ready, I'll tell you. And so I think he protected me, and I respect him for that. I do, even to this day. Even though there's tremendous pain, even though my reputation was at risk, even though we had to write checks, like, that, to me, the biggest lesson is to do the next right thing, even when, like, I'm no preacher, but it's true. Like, if you just do the next right thing, even when you aren't sure what the outcome is going to be, even if you're not sure if you can, it's worth it.
It's really ironic. So right now, as we do this podcast, in the office next door, I have a closing happening right now, and the
humble brag,
and the banker that's in that room called me to tell me this story because there was an issue with her bank.
Oh, you're kidding me?
Because she thought it would be that it would be good conversation for the podcast.
Can you say who the bank is?
No, I'm gonna leave it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What's it rhyme with?
I'm not gonna bring it up. But
Schminical?
we can talk about it off market, but
we can talk about it off market. Old habits die hard. I was gonna make an offer.
but anyway, so that was the old fashioned talking there.
Yeah.
But because they were talking, she was telling me about this going down, and they had big losses, and this changed. I mean, what you're talking about changed the whole entire local banking market.
Yeah.
Because of this. So
yeah, I've been told by, I really feel fortunate because the lenders that we did work through this with, like you can't do enough business with someone to build the level of trust and commitment to one another that going through a trauma together will build. And I hope nobody has to. I hope nobody has to go through that. At the same time, the level of comfort and trust and commitment that I feel with these banking relationships now compared to what I did before can't be measured because of this trauma. And so as hard as it was, it turns out like, I don't know, is it Ed Milet or somebody says life happens for you, not to you? Is that, I don't know if you guys have heard that before, but I think that this is a perfect example of that, right? Like at the moment I felt like a victim. At the moment, and my wife and I are like, we don't have this money. Like we don't want these properties. Like this is a headache. But as we reason through it, this happened for us because now we've got a reputation with these folks. They know when we say we're going to do something, if they say I'm going to pick you up at 6, I'm going to pick you up at 6. Right?
Yeah.
And how do you pay for that? So as hard as that was, I don't know if that story illustrates or answers the question the hardest. I think it was kind of the hardest thing in business and what I learned. But to do the next right thing, even when you don't know what to do.
It's probably one of the best failing forwards we've had.
I would think so, yeah.
Ever.
At the expense of a really good human being,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
and his family. And so it's sad that whatever led to that. But from my perspective, it's turned into a blessing as hard as it was.
Wow. Oh, that is a true failing forward.
Yeah, sorry you went through that, man, but
Thank you.
it sounds like you took some positives out of it and have been able to, do the right thing by your lenders and your vendors and people that you're around. And it would have been easy to tuck tail and run off and move away or do some of the things that you see a lot of business owners do when stuff goes sideways. So kudos to you for that.
And thank you very much. I will say that thought was very front and center. And
Yeah.
it was not. I mean, if I'm being honest, there was moments where like this would be much easier.
Well, look, anybody says that they've been through a really, really difficult time and they don't think of things like that is full of shit.
Yeah.
They really are. Because it crosses everyone's mind. Doesn't matter if it's a brief moment, but it's an option. It doesn't matter if it's a terrible option.
Yeah.
It's one that you would
Yeah.
never choose.
It's
it's an option.
It is, and it's when you're laying in bed at night, and
Yes.
the only one that you have is your own mind, and
Yeah.
you're just saying, "Who am I?"
Yep. And then
Like that's a
you have this filter at the top of your mental screen that says, I am not that person. And the rest of it just starts falling away, and then you're left
Yeah.
with do the right thing.
yeah.
And kudos to you, because that would have been easy as hell to just move away and not deal with all the fallout of it.
Yeah.
So good for you, man.
Thank you.
And so before we wrap up today, I didn't want to gloss over this. You, like we mentioned before, your family's heavily involved with your business.
Mhm.
But, as one question that we always like to ask, because it's something that we're constantly battling with, is work-life, family-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you balance the work-life, family-life when you work with 12 family members?
Yeah.
But also setting a time for your wife and kids to have that one-on-one personal time that isn't work.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a great question. You guys know who strategic coach Dan Sullivan? Have you heard this name?
Yep.
So
Yep.
Dan Sullivan has this framework.
Who, not how, right?
Yeah, Who
Yeah.
Not How. Great book, by the way. That's another. My wife and I had this conversation. Who Not How.
Voiceover was also done by Michael Kramer.
Yeah, little do you guys know that all I do is read books and record it at home. So he has a framework that is basically the paradigm that we're all raised in is this, he calls it Chronos time. So there's Chronos and Kairos. Okay, Chronos time is 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. It's you go to school at 8, you have recess at 10, you go to lunch at 11, you have recess at 2, you go home at 3. That's Chronos time. Kairos time is much more of, it's time to plant, it's time to harvest, it's time to have a baby. Those are Kairos times, which are such a time as this. It's time for it. So he suggests that we're trapped in this Chronos time paradigm. And that doesn't serve us, because we are often taught to say we earn our time off. In fact, I believed it for years. It was you can play when the work is done, right? Work all day and then you can play. Well, the paradigm shift for me occurred when Dan said, "That's broken. That pattern is broken because you never feel worthy of taking time off, and so you end up working and working and working and don't take time off." So he said, "Let's flip it."
I gotta say, I deal with that.
I don't know who doesn't.
Yeah.
Like we earn our we work all
We
week.
earn our rewards.
We do, and
Yeah.
we work 50 weeks, so we get 2 weeks off, right? In a W-2. That's how the world is set up. The whole world is on Chronos time. He says if we flip it and say, okay, instead of dealing with the clock, let's deal with the things that matter most. So start with you. What is it that energizes and excites you? And put that on your calendar first. So don't think of it as a reward. Think of it as, I can't deliver anything unless I'm completely full myself. There's another book called How Full Is Your Bucket?
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar concept where it says, hey, you can't let anybody dip in your bucket if it's empty. So fill your bucket, or it's like on an airplane, put your mask on
over
first.
yourself first, and then
Same
then your
idea,
kids.
right? Well, we just don't give ourselves permission to do that. So all that to say, we decided a year ago to adopt this Kairos time. So the 3 days that Dan says are free days first, which are it's 24 hours, which from midnight to midnight, you only do things that energize and excite you. And you give yourself full freedom and permission to do that. Then you have a buffer day, because he said to go from a free day to a focus day, which is the other day, is too much of a switching cost. So your buffer day sits in between, and that's a day to plan your focus days. It's also, depending upon where it falls, it could be a day to clean up messes so that you can focus. And then the last days are focus days. Focus days, and these are all 24 hours. Focus days are all you do is make money or remove barriers to making money. So only money-making activities or removing barriers to making money. We adopted that, and so that's a long answer to your question, like how do we balance this? Our whole family now speaks in this language. So when they call me and it's a focus day, they know Dad's, making money, or Dad's trying to make money, right? On a buffer day, I have flexibility.
You can juggle a little bit.
That's it.
Yeah.
And on that free day, what do you guys want to do? Like, I have set this day aside, and now that might feel a little rigid, but the reason that that's so valuable is because what happens is if we live in the Chronos time, we lie to ourselves and say we don't deserve a break. We haven't earned it. We haven't worked hard enough, so we never take it. So it's not that we're better or worse than the Chronos. It's that if we can all speak in that language, it becomes a little bit easier for us to say, hey, this is our time to just be us, and give ourselves permission to say this week we're skiing, or this week we're in Florida, or whatever it is that we're doing, and we have absolute freedom and zero guilt because we've agreed that that's the schedule that we're going to live on.
I love that, because it's true on the flip side too. If you're in focus time, because I don't know, I'm sure you guys feel this too, but like I feel guilty sometimes about working even though I really need to. Like if I have something that's really important, and then my wife's trying to talk to me, or my kids are, or they're popping in or want me to do something with them or whatever, and I feel terrible.
They don't know.
No.
They don't know you're in
They don't
focus.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just me. I'm around the house, even though I'm working.
Yep.
I don't have an on-air thing above
Right.
my head
Right.
that says, "Oh, your dad's working right now." Like
We could get that for you.
we do have that. Yeah. So, but I like that a lot. It kind of removes the guilt on both ends.
It
right?
does, because it allows, like for us, it's just, this is a buffer day, so I have flexibility. We can go in and out. If it's a focus day, then we just try to respect that. Now there's times where you can't, because sometimes the kids just stub their toe, or they come home from school and they're upset, and that's fine. You have to be able to flip out of it, but you set your intention for the day.
Love it.
Well,
you're not robot, right?
No.
Like you're not going to just automatically reject your
No.
kids or your wife or your spouse because it's a focus day.
Yep.
But Yeah, they if you set the expectation and you fully get them on board with it, I think that makes a ton of sense for a family, especially a large one like you have.
Yeah.
Like if everybody's kind of understands the framework of it, then hey,
there's actually liberty in it if it's understood and used. Now we're think of it back to the piano, right? Like we're still learning it, and there's a lot of times we mess it up, but we always come back to these are the chords we're trying to play, and it's just served us so much better than the old paradigm.
I didn't even realize that I was doing this because recently I took on some new venture and I block out my Wednesday. But Wednesday's kind of been my flex day now.
Feet Finder?
No, I got a Amazon. I became an Amazon influencer.
Wow.
And so
I'm not even sure what that is.
That's a whole nother conversation for another day. So I've been working on that on Wednesdays, but it's also been like my good flex day. I book the whole day out, but I don't book meetings on there unless it's needed. But it's been a good flex day for the family.
Oh, that's great.
And so kind of doing what you're doing, but it really leaves it open. But I don't book anything. I try never, unless it's like a real estate meetup or networking. I don't book anything after 5. In my weekends, if I have showings in my real estate business, I hand that off to either my mom or other real estate agents.
Sure.
So I try to do a little bit of that. I mean, I'm not 100% perfect, and none of us are.
Well, I think it goes back to what Owen said earlier, which is the saying this is what we're aspiring to. This is how we think about it. And if that serves us as a family, let's try to do more of it. And if it doesn't, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But there is more than one way, I guess, is my point, right? Like because we've been trained in this Chronos time paradigm, it doesn't mean we're stuck. Like we can look at it differently.
Sure.
And if it helps, I hope you can use it.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff.
I'm really glad I got into that because that was a great conversation.
It was. Yeah, that's good. All right, we have one last section for you on this fabulous Friday we've got here. So this section is called the
OT with Owen and Ted.
And we have the same 5, sometimes 6 questions that we ask every guest. The first one for you, Mr. Kramer. What will the title of your second book be called or about, topic-wise?
I don't know what the title's going to be, but I want to. My passion really is to help other folks understand the benefit of real estate investing, and specifically passive income. So I want to write a book about syndication and funds and what that means. I'm shocked the more I talk to folks in the real estate world how few people understand what a real estate syndication is and how it works. So that's kind of on my radar right now.
Cool.
Okay, we are on the Michael Kramer podcast. We're sitting here at the table. You can interview anyone in the world today. Okay? Who is it going to be, and what's the one dying question you want to ask them?
Can I just make I'm sorry.
Please.
Can I just make an observation here?
Oh, great. Here we go.
You always ask, what is the one dying question you're going to ask?
Oh, okay.
Like if I'm dying,
are you gonna
as
say,
if I'm dying.
Are you trying to say what is the question you are dying to ask?
What's the deepest question?
Thank you for clarifying, because I was thinking
Yes,
deathbed
like,
question. What's my deathbed question?
I've been sitting on this for months and months now. He asks this every time the same way. I'm like, are you saying, are they dying?
No,
like that's
I'm not saying they're dying.
The question you're dying to ask does not
What's-
mean the
what's your
dying
dying
question you're asking. Like that's way different.
What's the question you're dying to ask?
Who killed me? Like, no, it's not the same thing. Like,
Oh Lord.
okay,
That is.
please continue.
Yeah.
3 years later, this shit still goes out like this.
So I'm just to clarify, I'm not on my deathbed.
You're not on your deathbed.
I'm on my podcast.
That's your next question.
Okay. I might get some hate for this, but I want to interview Donald Trump, and I want to know, like, I'd really like to use some of the Never Split the Difference, and to see if there's somebody inside of there that I can actually like, because his policies I love, and his America First agenda I love. He just is a man that's really hard to like, and so I would love to interview him and see if I could, peel back that onion a little bit.
I think Donald Trump's been mentioned probably the most, and
Interesting.
Elon Musk has come up second.
Musk would be a good one too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, two pretty controversial characters for sure. Okay, so we are now on your deathbed.
Oh boy.
And
No, you already did.
And someone is, actually fast forward a little bit, past your deathbed into the big sleep. Who is going to deliver your eulogy, and what do you think they're going to say about you?
Oh boy.
12 disgruntled employees.
Yeah.
Coming up,
Gosh.
filing up, and
What did he do to us?
they're actually
Like,
your family
what?
members also.
Oh,
All
man.
12 of them are going to go up there at the same time.
My dad, great dad, horrible boss. No, I'm kidding.
You know, I'm what we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think it comes back to what drives me, right? Like the legacy is everything to me. And so my hope would be that it would be somebody that's very young, maybe a great-grandchild, maybe great-great, depends on how good I do here. But that just appreciates what we have set up for them. And because my view of the world is that it's going to get harder and more complicated and more expensive over time. I don't think that the next generation is going to have it easier. And so literally everything I do is to help them just have a little bit easier life. And so I hope maybe one of them stands up and says, you know, thanks, Grandpa. Whoever that is.
That's cool.
Yeah. Not to say that I've given them anything, but just maybe made it a little bit easier for them to do whatever they want to do. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
How old are you, by the way?
53.
53.
Yep.
I actually wouldn't have guessed that.
Yep.
You look a lot younger than Owen.
Shut up. Knew that was coming.
Thank you.
You're actually older than Owen. You know that?
Yeah, I figured I was. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's a lot more immature than me.
People have been saying that my whole life.
Oh, that's hilarious. Just kidding.
It's funny because it's true.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so what men in your life has had the biggest impact on you, and how have they influenced either your career or personal growth?
Which men? I'm sorry.
Mentor.
Which mentor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dying mentors.
It could be it could be a woman or a man.
Okay, yeah.
We don't pick sides here.
Yeah. So there's several folks that I would point to. The very first guy that was a mentor of mine was so I went to school to be a teacher.
What kind of teacher, by the way?
Special ed.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's why you and
Takes
I
a special person to do that.
get along so well.
Thanks.
No disrespect to the other special needs kids.
Just me.
Oh my God, I'm sweating. I'm laughing so hard.
Owen's veins are popping
This
out
is
of his
great
head.
stuff.
Yeah, so I my first job out of college was I lasted 6 weeks and I resigned. I hated teaching because I'm too much of an idealist. My next job was with Caterpillar, and
Construction equipment?
construction equipment. Yep. And when they interviewed me, they actually sent me to a third-party lab for medical and psychological testing. And when they brought me back, they said, "You're ideally suited for sales." And I said, "I don't want to sell. I don't even like people. Like I don't want to do this." And they said, "Well, your approach is perfect because we're consultative sellers. We ask a lot of questions. We don't push product. We're really about we're solutions."
Like discovery.
Exactly. More of a Socratic method. I'm like, that's what I do. Well, my boss, Bob Cody, I was, 23, 24 years old. And Bob Cody taught me how to sell. And I would argue that is probably the most valuable skill set that you can have in business, is the ability to meet someone where they're at and lead them to where you want them to go. And so Bob was, I've never said this to him. I don't even know if he's still alive, but he was the guy that believed in me and gave me my shot. And I think that really paved the way for a lot of future opportunities. So I would just say Bob would be the first, so maybe the most influential.
We always had when I worked at a car dealership for like 12 months of my life, we always said that the guys that had the hottest wives were the best salesperson or had a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it ran true though. Like literally, the guys that worked in our place, if they had the guys that made the most money in sales had the best looking wives because they could sell themselves.
Have you seen my wife, by the way?
I have no idea.
She's a smoke show. Just so you guys know.
So you're saying that you're a sale? Did you use the?
I read the book probably.
Never split the difference.
No, I didn't, honey. This was all absolutely sincere and true. This is just you and me, babe.
Well done.
Yeah.
He graduated from Neurolinguistic Programming University.
That was just a subtle hook to land in her brain,
Nice.
deep, wherever.
Michael, quick question for you though before Owen goes to his question is, do you have like a thinking spot that because I feel like we all kind of have like that Zen place, and this isn't one of our questions, that's why it's sometimes 6. But I mean, do you have a place you go to that really kind of like release, relax?
Yeah, I there's really 2 spots. Like it's, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but there's I tend to ruminate on things for a while.
Yeah.
And then there's this moment where there's clarity. And I like to call it giving birth to an idea, which sounds a little bit crude and maybe disrespectful to all the women who've actually given birth, because I don't have a clue what that's like. But it's like this process of chewing on something, and then all of a sudden it happens. That most often for me occurs usually when I'm waking up, which is weird. Like get up in the morning and I have this moment or two of clarity.
They say your brain is the freshest right when you wake up.
Yeah. The other is when I'm working out and I'm on the treadmill, or my brain just goes somewhere else, and I'm just allowing myself to freely think and not think about what's on my agenda. So those would be the 2 spots.
When I wake up early and like go sit in the sauna.
That's for you.
That's one of my 3 spots. Owen doesn't let me talk
I-
about my
I
other
s-
2.
You guys know the effect, and I think there's a name for it, but like when you're going to drive somewhere and then you all of a sudden you're there and you don't remember driving there.
How did I get here?
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah, it's like you know, obviously you remember parts of it, but like I find myself really thinking a lot when I drive. Like
I can see that too. Yeah.
I just kind of zone into a problem, and then all of a sudden you're there. And
Yeah. What is your license plate number? I want to make sure I stay clear.
Niner. There's a Niner in there.
It's Iowa.
Yeah, we just kind of lanes are more of a
there's
suggestion
Owen. He's
over
thinking.
there. Yeah.
my wife is
Hey,
always,
I say that because I recognize your brain capacity, and there's a limitation there that might just be right at the edge of driving.
I have a governor in there. Yeah, my hard drive is full.
my wife will be in the car with me. This happens like every week. She'll be like, we're riding somewhere, and she's like, "What is going through your brain right now?" Because like I'll like zoom right past the exit.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm like, I'm just like, I'm like in mode. Like I'm thinking, if I'm heading this direction, I'm thinking I'm heading to the office, or I'm heading this place, and I'm just, my mind's just spinning. That's funny you bring that up because
It's like it's got to be
It's a
a top
constant
5
issue.
Top 5 for me for
Yeah,
sure.
I always do that. Like
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that while you said that, because I was like, mornings I agree with you. Like I get a lot of good thinking done then, because you can kind of generally, if you build a morning routine that is pretty automatic, after a while you don't have to think about stuff, and then that lets you think about things.
Right.
So you're not concentrating on what's next. It's just like, okay, you're solving problems in your head, or you're planning things or strategy. But I think morning's good, and it's also good because generally the house is quiet if you get up early, and there's not constant go stuff with kids and getting them ready and like all that. So
For sure.
I like that. Okay, last question for you. What are you looking for in your business or life right now, and how can somebody listening to this connect with you or reach out to you?
So what I'm looking for is to I want to find as many people as I can to liberate from either a W-2 that they're maybe they're making a great living, but they don't have the time freedom they want, or a business owner, which was me before real estate, that feels trapped because the business would stop if they left. And what I mean by liberate is to help them understand how passive investing or passive income, I should say, can truly, I don't know of another way to get time freedom unless you were born wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find a way to get some kind of income coming in without trading your time for it.
Yep.
And so we believe building big businesses will do that, but a lot of times we're rugged individualists and we get stuck in those technical trenches and we look up and say, I can't take a vacation because if I do, it won't work.
Yep.
So those are the kinds of people I'm looking for. And it's not, we may not have the perfect solution or the answer, and most likely it's not for many.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to explore that with as many people as I can. And in terms of getting a hold of me, it's best probably just to email me, Michael@freedbyrealestate, or if you on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn,
Yeah.
Michael
or YouTube.
Kramer, or YouTube. Yeah,
That's great.
And you do a lot of webinars.
we do.
You know,
Yep.
and what do those webinars usually consist of? And are they? Do you have them on a consistent date, or
We don't have a set schedule.
does it cost to join them?
It does not.
Okay.
The webinars are all free.
Who is we, by the way? You said we do webinars.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Freed by Real Estate.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So Freed by Real Estate's the company, and we're the ones putting the content out. And it's 90% educational, and so the most recent one that we have done is a case study. It's this 90-unit case study, and we walk through how we found it, what we paid for it, what the plan was to stabilize it.
Ooh, that's great.
Go through
Yeah.
all the numbers, how much we made on it, how much, it's just a deep dive into that deal and how it worked.
And now on those webinars, do you re-record? Like, are those saved for later, like on YouTube or something like that?
They
Or
are.
okay.
We record them all.
Yeah, that's great. And what's your YouTube channel?
Freed by Real Estate, YouTube.
There you go.
How's that?
Search it, people.
Feel free to share those on our Facebook group. We have about
Thank you.
7,000 followers on there,
Thank
and
you.
I think this would be good content for them. Well, Michael, first met you a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
10 plus years ago. Now that I look back, didn't really get to know you too well, but I've seen you grow online. Had no idea that you were doing as much as you are now. You are completely right. I am a Chris Voss fanatic, and I saw you wrote a book, and I'm like, holy shit, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
And so I cannot wait to read it, and I apologize I haven't read it yet prior to this.
I've got a copy for you.
I'm excited to read it.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'll since I have to physically read it, I'll do it on the treadmill.
This might take a while.
It's big
Just read it
print.
while you're driving.
It's large print. Yeah.
Large print. But appreciate you coming on. Appreciate, how easy you were to work with all this. And I mean, I think the content is amazing. I think we've had a lot of wow moments in today's episode.
Thank you.
If you loved listening to Michael Kramer today, please give us a 5-star review, give us a written review. We'd love to get those and get your guys' feedback. We do have a review I'd like to read today. This is from Flipping BF on our Apple side. Continuing with our 5-star reviews and one 4-star review. But I think we have over 130 reviews right now.
Nice.
So that's kind of nice. But
Congratulations.
the title is Absolute Studs.
Whoa.
What, they were talking about our guests, or
I don't, let me read.
okay. Please continue.
Ted and Owen bring as much fun to the conversation as they do knowledge and expertise. The chemistry is rare, and their work, both on and off air, is impactful. So many of us highly recommend the show, and if you have a chance to attend the REIA event, it will not disappoint you.
Well, I'm blushing.
You should
Thank
be blushing.
you.
That was a
mystery review.
Flipping BF.
Flipping BF.
Yeah. So yeah, whoever that is, come let us know so we know who you are. So thank you for the kind words. And with that, Owen Dashner, we sign us off.
On behalf of REIA Radio, Devin Holcomb and Ted Kosh, I'm Owen Dashner, and you've been listening to Michael the W2 Liberator Kramer signing off.
Fabulous.
Okay, please radio edit that out. And this section is called the
Fabulous Friday.
God help me.
He also has only blue M&Ms in the bowl, if you noticed.
I'm not a diva.
Are we good now?
I need some makeup. I need some foundation. Oh, okay.
You can't.
I forgot
you
we don't
can't
have
fix
that
that.
Just like two toddlers.
I don't.
We're crying out loud.
Go ahead.